Hello, welcome to Video Mania 2. I'm the man behind the counter, Duncan, and today I thought we'd do a video talking about movies from the video store era and some older action movies that deserve a 4K scan onto a Blu-ray or a 4K disc itself. They just deserve to be restored because lately we've been very fortunate to get some action classics that have been released and gotten a 4K scan, and they look amazing. So, like Kino Lorber gave us Hard Target. Jean-Claude Van Damme is a classic action movie, and this looks amazing. I've talked about that in a previous video. Then Shout Factory gave us Joshua Tree with Dolph Lundgren, which is an absolute gem, and this was restored years ago. It looks amazing. And then we have Drive from MVD Rewind, which is another martial arts action classic from the 90s, which I'm so glad was restored. I think it's getting a 4K release this year, if I'm not mistaken. And then Vinegar Syndrome, I talked about this in the last video, with Talons of the Eagle, which has been restored. So some of these older gems are getting their due. So I thought today we would talk about movies that haven't been restored. Many of them aren't even available to stream. The only way to watch them is on a VHS. And don't laugh at me, or you can laugh if you want. But I still have a VCR and older TV, so I can watch some of these older films when I want to, because you can't buy it on Amazon Prime or stream it on Tubi. A couple of them you can, but most of them you can't. VHS is the only format they exist on, so I would love to see them be restored by some of these smaller companies that do these restorations, that do amazing work. And every time I get, an announcement for an order, I'm always excited. So today I'm going to go over some movies, some forgotten gems that deserve restoration. And many of these are on VHS because, like I said, it's the only way to watch them. And a couple of bare bones DVDs that I think, a restoration would be really good. So this video is going to be a little longer. I'm going to go through each film as quickly as I can. So first off, we'll start with Overkill, starring Aaron Norris and Michael Nouri. This movie, Aaron Norris's character, he goes on a vacation, which turns out to not be a vacation, and he's hunted in the jungles. So it's a premise you've heard before, but Michael Nouri really goes crazy with his role. And Aaron Norris, Chuck's brother, does a good job here. So this was a good action movie from the video store era. I'd love to see a restoration of it. Fun movie. Next, we have Tough and Deadly, starring Roddy Piper and Billy Blanks. Now, Billy Blanks has been getting some of his films restored lately. MVD Rewind did Showdown, and then Talons of the Eagle, which I talked about, and they did TC 2000. So he's been getting some of his older films and been getting some recognition, but this is one of his best ones. So I'd love to see it get restored by one of these smaller companies that I mentioned earlier. This one's available to stream on Tubi, if I'm not mistaken. It's Out for Blood, starring Don the Dragon Wilson. This one's a pretty solid action flick from him. He made many, but this I think, is one of his better ones. Next, we have a guy I haven't talked about much on Video Mania 2, but he made some great movies in the video store era of the 90s. Jeff Wincott, who was a great actor and also a black belt in Taekwondo, so, he brought, some real acting chops. He was really good. But he did some action movies. This is Open Fire. This is a Die Hard scenario. It's basically Die Hard in a chemical factory, so he has to foil their plans. And Patrick Kilpatrick, who was a staple villain for many of these films, he's the villain in this one. So this is a fun movie. Next, Don the Dragon Wilson again. We have Red Sun Rising with Mako is his teacher. He was a staple of many of the martial arts films, like The Perfect Weapon and Balance of Power, which I'm going to talk about later. But he was a staple of many of the martial arts films of the 90s. This one also has Terry Farrell from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. She was in this. But this is a pretty fun movie, so I'd love to see it get restored. Next, we have Shoot Fighter with Bolo Young, and it also stars William Zabka from Cobra Kai. So you have a good cast here, and this is a fun martial arts movie from that era. I would love to see a restoration for it. Next, we have this one I really want to have a restoration. I've even emailed some of these smaller distributors to restore it, because I'd love to see it. Thomas Ian Griffith from Cobra Kai. Um, Here he's with the late Rutger Hauer and John Rhys Davies. It's called Beyond Forgiveness. This is a good movie. It's an action movie. It takes place in Poland, so it's an interesting premise. It's a great movie. This is the only way to watch it is VHS, and I'd love to see a 4K restoration or a Blu-ray or even a 4K. It'd be awesome to get this. One of my all-time favorite movies. Next, Jeff Wincott again. This time he starts with Gary Hudson. It's Martial Outlaw, where his two brothers on different sides of the law. This is, another one with Jeff Wincott. Really good movie. He takes on some bad guys and his brother. It's a very conflicting thing, but another great movie from that era. Next, we have a genre favorite, Mr. Michael Dudikoff. This is The Silencer, where he has to uncover a conspiracy. This isn't a conventional Michael Dudikoff movie as far as, martial arts. Obviously, the American Ninja films is what he's best known for. But this one here, he has to uncover a conspiracy, and he's an assassin who's starting to question some things. So, interesting movie here. This is the only way to see it is VHS. I'd love to see a restoration of it. Next, we have Final Round starring Lorenzo Lamas, where he's hunted, and this bad guy played by Anthony DeLongis, he films it, and he has like this remote place where he films it, and his hunters have on cameras, and so like people bet from all over the world. It's like this closed circuit feed, and so they're hunting him. It's an interesting. It's a premise you've seen many times in these kinds of movies, but here Lorenzo Lamas, they have the twist that it has a live feed to different people. But Lorenzo Lamas is one of my favorite movies. He was a staple of that era that I've been talking about. Next, we have Balance of Power starring Billy Blanks and Mako. This one here, he's a karate teacher that he has to enter a tournament, and he has to fight a bunch of different people, and the main bad guy he fights is James Lutz, another great martial arts movie from that era. And like we've been talking about, Billy Blank's been getting a lot of his films restored, so this one, I'd love to see that happen. Next, we have Thomas Ian Griffith again. It's Crackerjack. I think you can actually stream this in a few places. It's Thomas Ian Griffith, Nastasia Kinski, and Christopher Plummer, and this is Die Hard in a mountain resort, basically, on a much smaller budget. But Thomas Ian Griffith's in here. Pretty fun movie. Check it out. Next, we have a guy I haven't really talked about, but he made some straight-to-video action movies that were a lot of fun. His one theatrical release was Stone Cold, which is awesome. But here's one, Brian Bosworth, the former Oklahoma Sooner linebacker, and Seattle Seahawk linebacker too. He played in the pro for a couple seasons, I think. But here it's Back in Business. This is kind of in vein of Lethal Weapon, a little bit of comedic elements. He plays off well with Joe Torre here, and so here he's trying to build his reputation back. But it's a fun movie. It's never even been given a DVD release. I'd love to see it restored. This movie's a ton of fun with Mustangs and Shelby Cobras, so pretty good movie. Next, we have another movie that's been mentioned in comments a few times. This it's a movie. I think you can buy it like a standard edition on Amazon Prime to stream it if you want. I think it might be on Tubi. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. But it's Bounty Tracker starring Lorenzo Lamas, Matthias Hughes. Here he tries to avenge his brother. One of these 90s action staples, but a lot of really fun movie. This is really good. I'd love to see Vinegar Syndrome, Kino Lorber, Shout Factory, MVD Rewind pick this up. It'd be a great addition. And the last VHS is Dead Tide, starring Roddy Piper and Tawny Katane. She's the woman that used to be in the White Snake videos, like the Here I Go Again video, because she was David Coverdero's wife, the singer of White Snake at the time. So she appeared on the album of Rat Out of the Cellar, their record too. so she's did a lot of stuff like that. But here, she gets mixed up with Roddy Piper's character, and she kind of seduces him, and he gets in over his head, so he has to kind of find his way out of it. It's a good 90s action movie, kind of a mystery, not tons of action, but it's a good movie. I remember I rented a Blockbuster when a freshman year at my first college, and I always liked it, but this is the only way it exists is VHS. There's no streaming, there's nothing, so I'd love to see one of the retail independent distributors I talked about pick this up. It'd be a great addition. Now, a couple of bare bones DVDs that are just should really be restored. The first one I'm going to talk about is Free Fall, starring Eric Roberts and Pamela Gidley and Jeff Fahey. This is the DVD. I don't know if it's available to stream or not. I hadn't looked it up in a while. But this is a good action adventure movie. Pretty fun, but as you see, this is like a really bare bones DVD. I'd love to see a 4K scan of it. And last but certainly not least, this movie I saw on HBO in a hotel room when I was on my way back home. And it stars Corey Haim and Patricia Arquette as Prayer of the Roller Boys. This is another bare bones DVD you can find on eBay. It's going to cost you like $40 just to get this bare bones. I'd love to see a 4K restoration of it. I'd love to see one of the retailers I mentioned here, restore this. Interesting movie. It's Corey Haim has to go undercover and take down some racist rollerbladers in the dystopian future, and Patricia Arquette helps him. So it's a different movie. It's one of my favorites. So it's a really interesting premise. So that covers it. I went through them as fast as I can. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you think I've forgotten or you'd love to see be restored. Those I just want to give a quick rundown of movies that don't even have a bare bone. Most of them, except the last two I mentioned, don't even have a bare bones DVD release. So they're just crying for like this limited edition restoration. So I'd love to see it happen. So let me know in the comments if you've seen any of these movies. What other movies from that era should be restored? And be given their due. Let me know any of that in the comments. And thanks for sticking with me this long. And I'll see you next time.